Let's get brutally honest. You stopped chasing, and something shifted. Not in a small, subtle way, in a seismic way, in a way you can feel even if you can't fully explain it yet. Something changed the moment you decided to stop running after someone who kept walking away from you. And if you've been wondering whether that decision means anything, whether it matters, I need you to stay with me right now. Because what's happening on their end right now is something most people never get to see. Most people give up before they ever reach this point. You didn't. And now? Now they're panicking. Not dramatically, not in a way they'd ever admit, but underneath the surface, in the part of them they've spent a lifetime hiding, panic is exactly what's happening. And you need to understand why. Because understanding this is going to be the thing that keeps you from going back. Understanding this is going to be the thing that finally sets you free. So let's talk about avoidance psychology. Let's talk about what's actually happening in their mind right now. Let's talk about why your silence is louder than anything you ever said. And let's talk about why, for the first time in this whole painful cycle, you are the one holding all the power. The avoidance entire world was built around one thing. Before we get to what they're feeling right now, you need to understand what they were working with from the very beginning. Avoidance built their entire emotional world around a single survival strategy. And that strategy is this: stay in control of the distance. That's it. That's the whole game. They move away when you get close. They get uncomfortable when things feel too intimate. They pull back when the relationship starts requiring too much emotional presence from them. And the moment you start to pull away yourself, even slightly, they panic and reel you back in. Not because they want closeness, because they can't stand feeling like they don't control the distance anymore. They don't panic because they miss you. They panic because the distance is no longer something they're managing. You've taken the controls out of their hands. And for an avoidant, for someone who spent their entire childhood learning that closeness equals danger and distance equals safety, that loss of control feels catastrophic. This is why the cycle felt so confusing when you were in it. You got close, they pulled away. You pulled back, they came closer. You cried and chased, they felt suffocated. You went quiet, they suddenly seemed more interested. You thought you were losing your mind. You thought there was something wrong with you. There was nothing wrong with you, you just didn't understand the rules of the game you were playing. And here's the thing, it was never a fair game. It was never designed to give you what you actually needed. It was designed to keep them feeling safe at your expense. But here's where everything changes. You stopped playing. What happens inside an avoidant when the chasing stops? The moment you stopped chasing, the exact moment you chose to stop, something happened in their nervous system that they were completely unprepared for. Think about it this way. An avoidant's emotional regulation depends on predictability. They need to know the distance is maintained. They need to know you'll still be there. They need to know that even if they push you away, you'll come back. You always come back. You've come back every single time. That consistency, your consistency in chasing, was actually the thing keeping them calm. It sounds backwards, it sounds deeply unfair, and it is. But that's the reality of avoidant attachment. Your pursuit was the thing regulating their anxiety. Your love, your longing, your texts, your calls, your efforts, all of that was functioning as an emotional anchor for someone who would never publicly admit to needing one. And now the anchor is gone. Now there's no one chasing, no messages to ignore, no calls to screen, no emotional warmth to push away. And what does that create? A void. A void that has nothing to do with you as a person, and everything to do with the identity they built around being the one who controls the distance. When you were chasing, they were the one with the power. They could take you or leave you. They could engage or pull back. They could keep you at arm's length and know you'd stay there, waiting, hoping, trying. Now, they can't take you because you're not available to be taken. They can't leave you because you've already left. And that dismantles something fundamental in the way they understand themselves in this relationship. That's the panic. That's what you feel in their sudden interest. That's what's underneath the unexpected message, the like on your photo, the mutual friend who mentions they've been asking about you. That's what's driving all of it. Not love, not realization, not growth, panic. And here's what you need to know about panic. It doesn't come with clarity. It doesn't come with healing. Panic is just the alarm going off. It's the system registering that something it counted on is no longer available. It doesn't mean they've changed. It doesn't mean they understand what they did. It just means the system is alarming. Your job is not to answer the alarm. The story they're telling themselves right now. Here's something most people don't realize about avoidance. They are masterful at narrating their own experience in a way that protects them from accountability. Right now, as they're experiencing this panic, they are not sitting in a quiet room thinking, I pushed them away with my emotional unavailability and consistent pattern of devaluation. And now they've rightfully stepped back to protect themselves. And I need to do some serious self-examination. That is not the narrative. The narrative is something like, they're probably just giving me space. They'll come back. They always come back. Or maybe they're testing me. Or maybe they're seeing someone else. Or maybe I actually pushed too far this time. Maybe I need to send something casual to just check in. Notice what's happening in that internal monologue. There is no genuine accountability. There is no looking inward. There is only an attempt to regain the sense of control that your stepping back has removed. The story is still entirely about them, about what they feel, about what they need to do to manage their own discomfort. And this is critical for you to understand right now, because you might be tempted, if and when they reach out, to interpret their reach out as evidence of growth, as evidence that they finally get it, as evidence that the connection was real after all. Be careful. A reach out from a place of panic is not the same thing as a reach out from a place of genuine desire for connection and change. One is them responding to discomfort. The other is them responding to you. And in most cases, when an avoidant reaches out after you've stopped chasing, what they want, what they need, is to re-establish the dynamic that made them feel safe. Which means returning to the cycle. Which means returning to the place where you were chasing and they were managing the distance. They don't want the relationship to change. They want you to come back so that everything can go back to the way it was, and the way it was slowly destroying you. Why stopping was the most powerful thing you've ever done. Let's talk about you for a moment. Because this isn't just about them, and it isn't just about what they're experiencing. This is about what stopping the chase has done and is doing to you. When you were chasing, a part of you was in a constant state of seeking approval, seeking validation, seeking just one moment of warmth, one moment of closeness, one moment where they let you in and you could finally exhale and feel like the relationship was real. You were operating from a place of emotional hunger, emotional need, and there is no shame in that. That need was real, that hunger was understandable, but it was also making you smaller every day. Every chase, every time you reached out first, every time you adjusted yourself to match their temperature, every time you suppressed your needs to avoid triggering their withdrawal, you were getting a little smaller. Stopping changed that. When you stopped chasing, you did something radical. You decided that your peace mattered more than their comfort. You decided that your nervous system deserved to stop being in a permanent state of anxiety about someone else's availability. You decided, consciously or not, that you were no longer willing to manage the emotional weight of two people in a relationship where only one person was actually showing up. That is not a small thing. That is a complete recalibration of your sense of self-worth. And the interesting thing is, avoidance can sense it. They cannot articulate it. They cannot name it. But they feel it. They feel the difference between someone who is chasing and someone who has genuinely stepped back into themselves. And that difference, that energetic shift, is exactly what's creating the panic. You are not the same person who was running after them. You have returned to yourself. And something in them, the part that always registered you as a safe, available, perpetually pursuing presence, is alarmed to find that person no longer standing there. The moment they realized something was different, there was a moment, maybe you know when it was, maybe you don't, there was a specific moment when they registered that this was different. Not you cooling off for a few days, not you being busy, not you giving them space hoping they'd fill it. A moment when they felt, somewhere in that guarded emotional core, that something had genuinely changed. It might have been when you didn't respond to the casual message the way you always had. Not coldly, not with anger, just differently, with less urgency, with less need, with the quiet of someone who is no longer waiting. It might have been when they heard through someone that you were doing well, actually well, not performing wellness to make them jealous, but genuinely moving through your life with a kind of forward momentum that didn't have them at the center of it. It might have been a moment of silence, a week without reaching out, a photo that didn't involve anything that looked like it was meant for their eyes, an absence that felt to them complete. Whatever the moment was, they felt it, and it landed differently than anything you said during the relationship ever could have. Words don't reach avoidance the way absence does. You could have spent 1,000 more conversations explaining how you felt, how much you needed, how the cycle was hurting you, and they would have intellectualized it, dismissed it, reframed it, or used it against you. But your silence, your absence, your decision to stop showing up in the way they needed you to, that reached something that words never could, because it spoke directly to the wound, the attachment wound, the wound that says, connection leads to abandonment. The wound that they've been managing every single day of their adult life by making sure they're the ones who leave first, who pull back first, who have the power to control the distance. You stop the chase, and suddenly they're the ones standing still while something moves away from them. And for an avoidant, that inversion of the dynamic is deeply viscerally destabilizing. What the panic looks like in real life. Let's be specific, because you're probably wondering what this actually looks like. You might be experiencing some of it right now. The panic doesn't look like crying on their knees begging you to come back. That's not avoidant behavior. Avoidants don't collapse in that direction. Their defense mechanisms are too well constructed for that kind of vulnerability. Instead, the panic looks subtle, indirect, and it looks familiar enough to fool you if you're not paying attention. It looks like a text that seems casual on the surface, but lands at an unusual time. Late at night, on a meaningful date, during a period of silence that stretched longer than they expected. A text that says, hey, or how are you, or references something specific from your past together in a way that seems accidental but isn't. Something designed to open a door without them having to be seen standing in the doorway. It looks like activity in your peripheral vision, a like on something you posted weeks ago, a view on a story, a reconnect from a mutual space, small deniable signals that require nothing of them, and test everything in you. It looks like a sudden display of availability. They're suddenly posting things that suggest they're reflecting, suddenly visible in places where they know you'll hear about them, suddenly talking to mutual friends in ways that might circle back to you. Not because they've done the work, but because the system is alarmed and it's scanning for re-engagement. It looks like reaching out through the back door. A meme they think you'd like. A question that seems logistical but is actually a conversation starter. Something that doesn't require them to show their hand, but gives them a way back in if you open the door. Here's the thing. You know these moves. You've seen them before. Every time you pulled back in the past, every time you got too hurt or too tired and went quiet, they did some version of this and it worked. You opened the door, you let them back in. The cycle continued. This time is different. This time, you see the move for what it is. This time, the door doesn't open just because they knocked on it. Staying grounded. When the pull comes, this is the most important part of this conversation. So I need you to really hear this. At some point, if you hold this long enough, the pull is going to come. And it's going to feel different from what you expect. It's not always going to feel like weakness or desperation. Sometimes it's going to feel like hope. Real hope. The kind that makes your chest warm and your mind start constructing possibilities. Because you still care. You haven't stopped caring just because you stopped chasing. The feelings you had are real. The connection was real, at least on your side. And when they reach out, even with the most deniable, casual, indirect reach out, some part of you is going to want to believe it means something. Some part of you is going to want it to be the beginning of a different chapter. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible. I'm not going to tell you people can't change. But I am going to tell you this. Panic is not change. Discomfort is not transformation. The absence of their usual control is not the same as the presence of genuine accountability. If they come back right now, in the days or weeks after you've stopped chasing, they are coming back to get the thing you took when you stopped running. They are coming back for the regulation, for the anchor, for the sense of control. Not for you, not for the relationship. For the feeling of safety they had when they knew you were still there. And if you give that to them now, if you open the door, if you soften, if you respond the way you used to, here is exactly what will happen. They will step back from the panic and return to the regulated state that your availability gives them. And once they're regulated, once the discomfort is gone, once the alarm stops ringing, the avoidant patterns will return, the distance will return, the cycle will return. Because nothing changed. Only the alarm went off, and you answered it, and now the alarm is silent again, and everything goes back to normal. Normal is what was hurting you. So when the pull comes, and it may come, I want you to ask yourself one question. Not, do I still love them? Not, was the connection real? Ask yourself this. Has anything actually changed? Has there been real accountability? Has there been the kind of honest, sustained reflection that rewires a person? Has there been the kind of growth that comes from genuinely sitting with discomfort instead of immediately seeking to relieve it? If the answer is no, and it probably is, because that kind of growth takes real time and real work and can't happen in the week since you stopped chasing, then the pull you're feeling is not intuition. It's not wisdom. It's the old programming. The part of you that learned to orient toward them even when they weren't giving you what you needed. Don't listen to that part right now. That part kept you in the cycle for this long. What you're actually healing right now. I want to talk about what's really happening on your side of this. Because this isn't just about an avoidant panicking. This is about you rebuilding. When you were in the cycle of chasing and avoidant, you were slowly, often without realizing it, teaching your nervous system a very specific lesson. And the lesson was this: love requires constant effort on your part. Love requires you to manage someone else's discomfort. Love requires you to abandon your own needs so that someone else can feel safe. Love is something you have to earn every single day. That lesson, that wiring, is what you're undoing right now. Every day you don't chase. Every day you sit with your own discomfort instead of seeking relief in their direction. Every day you hold the boundary of your own chosen distance. You are reteaching your nervous system what it means to be loved and valued. You are telling yourself something that the relationship never did. Your presence doesn't have to be earned. Your love doesn't have to be rationed back to you in small, insufficient doses. You are worthy of someone who reaches toward you on their own. Someone who doesn't need to be alarmed into showing up. This is healing. Real healing. Not the linear, clean, painless kind. Not the kind where you wake up one day and feel completely fine. The messy, uncomfortable, sometimes devastating kind where you have to choose yourself over and over again, even when every part of you wants to go back. That's the work. And you're doing it. And here's something I need you to hold on to. The panic you're sensing from them right now, that is feedback. That is the universe confirming that your decision mattered, that your presence mattered, that you were not invisible in this relationship, you were the thing holding it together. And now that you've stopped holding it together, the whole structure is shaking. That doesn't mean you go back and stabilize it. That means you let it shake, you let it do what it needs to do. Because the structure was never built to hold you properly anyway. It was built to hold them. At your expense. The difference between someone who panics and someone who grows. Here's what you're waiting for, whether you've admitted it to yourself or not. You're waiting to see if this panic turns into something real. Something substantive. Something that looks less like the alarm going off and more like actual reckoning. Because somewhere in you there is still the hope that this person you loved, this person who could be so warm and so present in the good moments, can find their way to being the partner you needed. I see that hope. I'm not telling you it's naive or wrong to feel it, but I want you to understand the difference between what panic looks like and what genuine growth looks like, because they present very differently. And in the vulnerability of this moment, when you stopped chasing and they're reaching for you, you need to be able to tell them apart. Panic looks like reaching out quickly. It looks like wanting to resolve the discomfort fast. It looks like I miss you, without I understand what I did. It looks like promises that appear in the heat of the moment and dissolve once the discomfort passes. It looks like love bombing. Warmth and closeness and connection that floods back in all at once, sweeping you off your feet, making you feel like the person you always wanted them to be has finally arrived. Be careful with that flood. That flood is not new. You've swum in it before. You know where the current goes. Growth looks different. Growth is slow. Growth is uncomfortable for them too. Growth looks like someone sitting with the discomfort of your absence, without immediately trying to eliminate it. Growth looks like them doing the internal work, therapy, reflection, genuine examination of their patterns, without using you as a sounding board or an emotional support system while they do it. Growth looks like time, real time, more time than feels comfortable, more time than the panic would ever tolerate. Growth looks like changed behavior, not changed words. Behavior, consistent, sustained, in the direction of you and what you actually need. If what you're seeing is the panic, sit with it, let it exist. Don't feed it, don't starve it. Just don't chase it. If at some point, after real time, after real evidence, what you see is growth, then you can make a decision from a place of clarity rather than longing, from a place of discernment rather than need. But you're not there yet. and neither are they. You did the hardest thing. I want to end this by acknowledging something that doesn't get said enough. What you did, stopping the chase, is one of the hardest things a person can do when they're emotionally attached to someone. It goes against every instinct, it contradicts every message you received in the relationship about what love requires of you. It means sitting alone with your own pain instead of seeking relief in their direction. It means tolerating the not knowing, the silence, the possibility that they don't come back, the possibility that even if they do, it doesn't become what you hoped. That takes strength, a quiet, unrecognized, bone-deep kind of strength, and it's working. Not in the way you might have hoped, not with them magically transforming overnight into the partner you needed, but in the way that actually matters. It's working in you. It's rebuilding something in you. Your sense of self, your understanding of what you deserve, your ability to be still, to be alone, to be okay. They're panicking, and you're healing. Those two things are happening at the same time, and only one of them is your responsibility. Keep going. You've come further than you know. Stay in the healing room. This is where the real work gets done. The permission you never got. Before we go any further, I want to give you something. Something the relationship probably never gave you. Something you might have been waiting for without even realizing it. Permission to be done. Permission to stop trying to figure out if they're good or bad, broken or capable, worth it or not. Permission to stop analyzing every interaction for signs of what they really meant. Permission to stop sitting in the exhausting position of someone who is simultaneously trying to love another person and trying to survive the emotional climate they create. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to make them the villain of your story to justify taking care of yourself. You don't need to wait until you've built an airtight case proving they're incapable of love. You just need to be honest with yourself about how you feel when you're around them, how you feel in the hours after they leave, how you feel in the days when they're distant, whether the relationship makes you more yourself or less, whether it expands you or shrinks you. If the honest answer is that you feel smaller, more anxious, more uncertain about your own value, then that's enough. You don't need more evidence than that. You don't need them to acknowledge the damage. You have the right to leave or stop chasing based entirely on the experience of being in it. You gave enough, you tried enough, you loved enough. Now it's time to receive some of that back, starting with yourself. The trap of intermittent reinforcement. There's one more thing we need to talk about, because it's the thing most people don't fully understand when they're in the pull of this. The reason this relationship felt so intense, the reason it felt so consuming, so addictive, so impossible to walk away from, has a name. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful binding mechanism in human psychology. More powerful than consistent love, more powerful than steady, reliable warmth, more powerful than any relationship that simply treats you well every single day. Here's how it works. When someone gives you reward and then withdrawal, closeness followed by distance, warmth followed by cold, presence followed by disappearance, your brain doesn't learn to stop wanting them. It does the opposite. It becomes more fixated, more persistent, more attached. Because the unpredictability of the reward triggers a dopamine response that consistent love simply doesn't create. Your brain starts to function like a slot machine player who can't walk away from the machine even when they know the odds are against them. Not because they're weak, because their neurochemistry has been conditioned to stay in the game. This is why you chased, not because you were desperate, not because you had no self-respect, not because you were broken, because your brain was responding to a pattern it had been conditioned into by someone whose attachment style is, at its core, built on exactly this kind of intermittent reward and withdrawal. The avoidant didn't do this consciously. It's not a manipulation strategy they planned, it's just the natural output of the push-pull dynamic that their attachment style creates. But it had the same effect on you as if it had been deliberate. And now that you've stopped chasing, your brain is going through something like withdrawal. The slot machine isn't paying out anymore, because you've walked away from it. And every instinct in your conditioned nervous system is screaming at you to go back, to try one more time, to reach out just once, to check if maybe this time the machine will pay. Don't go back to the machine. The machine doesn't change. The machine takes your coins and occasionally gives some back to keep you playing. That's not a relationship. That's a cycle. And you are worth more than a cycle. What choosing yourself actually means. People use that phrase, choose yourself, and it's become so common it's almost lost its meaning. So let me tell you what it actually looks like, concretely. in the day-to-day reality of where you are right now. Choosing yourself means that when you feel the urge to check their social media, you recognize that urge for what it is, a hit of the intermittent reinforcement cycle, and you make a different choice. Not a perfect choice, not a painless choice, just a different one. You put the phone down, you go for a walk, you call someone who actually shows up for you, you write in a journal, you do anything that moves your attention back into your own life. Choosing yourself means that when you find yourself composing messages to them in your head, all the things you wish you could say, all the explanations that might finally make them understand, you let those words exist without sending them. You let the feeling be real without acting on it. Choosing yourself means that you start rebuilding your sense of who you are outside of this relationship. Because the truth is, and this is something that happens slowly and insidiously in relationships with avoidance, you probably lost parts of yourself in this. You shrunk in places to make them comfortable. You expanded in places to fill the gaps their emotional absence left. You shaped yourself around someone who was never fully there. And now you have the space, painful as it is, to remember who you were before that. To find out who you are becoming, choosing yourself means you stop measuring your healing by whether they've come back or changed. Your healing is not contingent on their behavior. Your growth does not require their participation. You can become whole and healthy and at peace regardless of what they do or don't do. Their panic does not define your progress. Their potential change does not determine your worth. You are already worth it. You are always worth it. The relationship never had the power to change that, no matter how many times it made you feel otherwise. So choose yourself, not as a tactic, not as a way to make them want you back, not as a strategic move in the game of the relationship. Choose yourself because you are the one person in your life who is always there, the one person you will never lose access to, the one relationship you are guaranteed to have for the rest of your life. Make it a good one. You know where to find us. The healing room isn't going anywhere.